What you're seeing right now is not a common play. It will be the event that leads to the cold-blooded murder of one of these players, Andrés Escobar, a defender for the Colombian national team, makes a mistake trying to clear the ball from the area. Without meaning to, he scores an own goal, and he will pay for it with his life. In the early 1990s, football in Colombia was more than a game. It was one of the few things capable of uniting a country that had spent years tearing itself apart. Powerful drug cartels exercised near total control over entire cities. Kidnappings and assassinations were so frequent that they barely registered as news. Colombia's name had become synonymous, in the eyes of the wider world, with violence and narcotics. Football offered an escape. 90 minutes a week in which ordinary Colombians could forget, however briefly, the chaos surrounding them. By 1994, the Colombian national team had assembled what many considered the finest squad in the country's history. They arrived at that year's World Cup, hosted in the United States, with crushing wins behind them in qualifying and sky-high expectations ahead of them. Some pundits tipped them as dark horses to win the entire tournament. For the players, the pressure to perform came from every direction at once. The government wanted a victory that would put Colombia on the map for something other than crime. The public wanted the same, and the men who ran the country's drug trade, men who had poured cartel money into football clubs for years, partly out of genuine passion and partly to launder the proceeds of the drug trade, wanted it most of all. In Colombia, by 1994, losing a football match could be a matter of life and death. Andrés Escobar was 27 years old when he took the field at the 1994 World Cup. A defender by trade, he played his club football for Atlético Nacional, a Colombian side with deep and well-documented ties to Pablo Escobar. No relation. Despite the violent world that surrounded the sport, Andrés had built a reputation as the very opposite of a villain. Calm, disciplined, and unfailingly polite both on the pitch and off it, he had earned the nickname El Caballero, the gentleman. Colombia's World Cup campaign began poorly. On the 18th of June 1994, they lost their opening match 3-1 to Romania, a shock result given the talent on the Colombian roster. 4 days later, on the 22nd of June, they faced the host nation, the United States, in a match they were still heavily expected to win. In the 34th minute, American midfielder John Harkes sent a low cross toward a teammate near the 6-yard box. Andrés Escobar slid in to intercept it before it could reach the attacker. The ball deflected off his outstretched leg and looped past his own goalkeeper into the net. It was an own goal, the kind of unlucky, split-second misfortune that befalls defenders in nearly every match played anywhere in the world. The United States went on to win 2-1. The result left Colombia's World Cup hopes hanging by a thread. Having lost both of their opening matches, they would need a near miracle to advance. A win over Switzerland in their final group game, combined with a Romanian defeat to the United States. Against the odds, Colombia did beat Switzerland 2-1, but Romania also won, defeating the United States. Colombia, one of the pre-tournament favorites, was eliminated without ever escaping the group stage. After the elimination, many Colombian players chose to extend their stay in the United States, partly to see the sights, and partly to let tempers cool back home before they returned. Andrés Escobar made a different choice. With his wedding only 5 months away and the transfer to AC Milan close to being finalized, he decided to fly home early to spend time with his family. On the night of the 2nd of July, 1994, just 10 days after the elimination, Andrés went out with childhood friends in Medellín to take his mind off the tournament. Those close to him had urged him to keep a low profile, wary that a chance encounter with an angry stranger could turn ugly. Andrés brushed off the warnings. He had made an honest mistake, the kind that could have happened to any player on the field, and he refused to hide from it. The group ended the night at a bar called El Indio, in the Las Palmas district, on the outskirts of the city. The evening passed without incident until around 3 in the morning, when Andrés returned alone to his car in the parking lot. 3 men approached him. An argument broke out. Within moments, one of the men drew a handgun and fired 6 shots into Andrés Escobar's body at point-blank range. Andrés Escobar survived for roughly 45 minutes after the shooting, before he was pronounced dead at a nearby clinic. His killers fled the scene in a pickup truck. Police identified the shooter as Humberto Muñoz Castro, a driver and bodyguard employed by brothers Pedro and Santiago Galón, men with established links to drug trafficking and paramilitary groups. Investigators came to believe the Galón brothers had wagered a significant sum of money on Colombia's World Cup performance, and that Andrés's own goal had cost them dearly. Muñoz was arrested the day after the killing, once police traced the getaway vehicle back to him. He was ultimately sentenced to 43 years in prison, but his sentence was repeatedly reduced. He walked free in 2005, just 11 years after the murder. Prosecutors were never able to prove that the Galón brothers had ordered the killing outright. Both men surrendered to authorities several weeks after the crime and were eventually convicted only on lesser charges of providing cover for the shooter. Between them, they spent less than 3 years behind bars. Colombia had hoped the 1994 World Cup would be remembered as the moment the country stepped out from under the shadow of the cartels, the moment it became known for something other than violence. Instead, the murder of Andrés Escobar did the opposite. It confirmed, in the eyes of much of the watching world, exactly the reputation Colombians had hoped to leave behind. A country where even a single mistake on a football field could be punished with a bullet. Andrés Escobar's death became one of the most infamous tragedies in the history of international football, a stark reminder of just how far the shadow of organized crime had fallen across a nation, and of how cheaply a life could be priced when held against a wager and a grudge.